Strong connection to their ship is most important to their mission. This is just one of the ways these beings work. And these nurseries are not deformed or mutants or hybrids or anything like that either. A star child usually has at least one parent who has mystical abilities as well, in that they have this connection. Some parents will admit it freely, and some will deny it and pretend they do not know what you're talking about. This connection will run far back in the family, with a history of grandparents who had a connection, or even great-grandparents who have had a connection. I know some starseeds who feel alone with being who they are, and no one in their family understands. Some parents hide it very well, as they are in denial, or have successfully managed to convince themselves it never happened. There is the odd rare one who really has parents with no connection to these beings, and so the kid really feels like they have been dropped off and abandoned on Earth. I really feel for you guys. One case I had come across was this woman who told me she remembers being dropped off from a ship on the doorstep of an orphanage as a baby. By the age of 6, she was so very angry but did not know why. Well, one day she wandered around the corner of her orphanage, and there, sitting on a table in a ball against the building, was an old woman. Sitting on a table. This old woman told the young girl all about her life and all the good things and hardships she would endure. When the little girl heard all of this, she had more of the hardships in her memory and on her mind, and she said, "But I do not want to go through all those things." The old woman said it was very important for her mission. It would equip her with her ability to help many people when the time came. "Who are you?" asked the young girl. Who are you that you would know such things?" "I am you," said the old woman, at age 60. This young girl is now 47, and she is starting to see how things are coming full circle, and why she went through things as she did. She also sees how she is starting to look like that 60-year-old woman she saw long ago. The memory is tattooed in her brain. What we can do with information like this is to send our comfort and insight to ourselves when we were younger. We can project ourselves with wings, or whatever form we wish to send this love and warmth when you were going through a hard time. This way you will feel not so alone during that time. You will substantially decrease the anger. If you can talk to your parents about yourself, what you were like as a kid, and if they recall you having an imaginary friend or speaking about angel friends, that can help with present and past stagnation. When you ask your parents or anyone who knew you as a kid, you might be very surprised with the answer. I saw that in a movie I saw something that addressed something like this has been addressed in a movie called Disney's The Kid. There's also, when we're done healing our past, we can also travel to ourselves in the future. If you're going through a hard time right now, travel to yourself like 2-3 years into the future. It's what I do with myself, and you also can download insights from yourself at that time as well, or even other dimensional selves you can tap into just by intent. This was one of the reasons why I was just tickled by the idea of recording a conversation with Andrew Basciago, who was just a waterfall on the subject of time travel and teleportation. I was sure that the secret government was playing around with this technology without any public awareness, and I thought that the interview would be a good idea to help people have a better awareness of the understanding about this quantum hologram existence we find ourselves in. And it's important for people to know that such things are going on. Also, I thought it would help others not feel so alone. I know this lady felt alone with this experience, as did Andrew. To me, it did not matter if Andrew's story had all the right information, because I knew that such experiments have been and are being done. And even if people say they were brainwashed, that's aside from the point because time travel does still exist and teleportation does exist. Later on in this video, I will share more on what Project Pegasus was trying to accomplish and why it will not work. What impressed me with the most about Andrew was his ethics, his integrity, and his willingness to talk to anyone who would listen. Up to that point, no one would interview him. Since my interview, Coast to Coast, Red Ice Creations, and perhaps others have interviewed him. There will be more on Andrew Basiago in another video to come. Well, it's my sharing a bit more about that interview with Andrew. Anyway, UFOs, let's call them beam ships, help us go beyond the dream veil to speak with the race we are working with. Not always as family, but as an alliance. We tell them about our experiences of being human, what we have learned, and what would be good for them to experience as well. So we have a free will, destiny, and co-creation and guides and personality that must learn how to bridge to the soul and anchor to something solid on earth. This will help the collective with this shift. This is the goal. Just in position, I'm cramping. I'm not sure what I can do. When I was in physical form as a watcher in Atlantis, I recall that I was not a man of high standing. He was just a good, trustworthy man. I recall that the water looked like a liquefied crystal. He was selected to help take knowledge, articles, and documents to the four corners of the world to the truth preservers, who are the natives. The truth was not lost, but rather scattered. When I met them and shared this with them, my memories of those other lives and other dimensions, they confirm this. They preserve the knowledge through songs and tales. I recall people having access to UFOs at that time as well. Another thing I recall about being a guide was the trouble guides were having in helping people understand universal truth. See, we were also trying to guide people through trial and error. Well, this one time in the early 60s, another guide and I gave this person too much information too quickly, and the person could not handle it and was committed to a mental institution. This acceleration of thought and feeling was so great, it made no sense to others, and he could not function in the 3D plane. People need to understand that the guides were learning how to best help people to their awakening. It was a partnership with one part on Earth, like an astronaut connected to mission control. Mission control had to know its stuff, but it was a learning process for them too. So it was decided to have a little at a time, stretched out through a long period of time. But 3D time is not our time. Since they choose to preserve time this way, we had to learn and get used to it. But still, to this day, if you ask a being to do something, or ask if something will happen at a certain time, it rarely is able to pinpoint this. The problem with this was how the person would respond to such insights. They would create things like cults or filter it through their ego and shape it into something it was not intended to be. So with these results, we had to figure out how to find a way to share such insights without it getting to people's heads or creating more separation. We wanted to help people understand their oneness and who they were. A guide is like a GPS unit. It looks for the best route for a person to go and also has to be ready to navigate if the person wants to take an alternative route. They need to help people avoid roadblocks or help them find their way if they choose to go left rather than right. They have a satellite view of various life paths you can take to get to your destination.